Welcome to the Psych Ignition. The hardest person to impress isn't out there, it's the one staring back from the mirror. History whispers this truth through time. Even Leonardo da Vinci called his genius a failure, and Nikola Tesla died convinced he had accomplished nothing of worth. Greatness, it seems, often walks blind to its own reflection, and Sigma males are no exception. They move through life carrying qualities others would trade kingdoms for, yet they treat those gifts like loose change. To the world, they appear untouchable, mysterious forces wrapped in calm. But in their own eyes, they're simply repairing invisible leaks no one else notices. It's ironic, almost poetic. While everyone else whispers, "He's extraordinary," the Sigma is busy tightening the metaphorical screws of a ship already built to perfection. He's like the genius who constructs a rocket, then complains the control panel isn't aligned. This isn't false modesty. It's tunnel vision. A kind of psychological myopia that makes him blind to the empire he's already built. And that's why today, we're tearing back the layers, to understand why Sigma males can't see their own greatness. These are the brutal, fascinating truths that redefine how you see the Sigma mind. Let's go. Number 1, they redefine greatness faster than they achieve it. By the time a Sigma male reaches one version of greatness, he's already dismantling it, rebuilding a new, higher standard before the world even catches its breath. That's the paradox of his existence. He never lingers long enough to appreciate where he stands, because his mind has already moved on to what's next. It's not that pride escapes him, it's that pride can't keep up with the velocity of his evolution. Every time he breaks a ceiling, he convinces himself it was too low to begin with. What the world worships as rare, he minimizes to not enough. It's the classic psychological trap of hedonic adaptation, the brain's tendency to normalize even the extraordinary. To him, life isn't a peak to stand upon, it's a staircase with no final step. While others would plant a flag and celebrate, he's already scanning the horizon for his next ascent. To outsiders, it looks like endless ambition. But to the Sigma, it's not a chase for glory, it's an instinct. A restless compulsion to keep evolving. Yet this restlessness creates an illusion of inadequacy. He's not chasing greatness because he lacks it, he's chasing because his definition of greatness keeps running ahead of him. Every milestone shrinks in his rearview mirror. He may master a craft, gain influence, or achieve what others deem impossible, yet moments later, he dismisses it as step 1. This mentality is both his fuel and his blindness. It turns him into an unstoppable force, never complacent, never satisfied, but it also robs him of the ability to see the empire he's already built. While the world watches in awe, the Sigma only sees unfinished work. He doesn't recognize that the future self he's chasing is already standing in the mirror. He lives in quiet contradiction, revered by others, restless within himself. The greatness others see is never the one he sees, because by the time he arrives, he's already left. In chasing who he could become, he forgets to honor who he already is. Number 2, they're wired to believe normal is the baseline. Sigma males rarely recognize their own greatness because, to them, their brilliance feels ordinary. The way they think, the way they solve, the way they move through life, it all feels too natural to be exceptional. What others see as brilliance, the Sigma interprets as just how I am. It's the curse of the gifted. When mastery comes easily, it stops feeling like mastery at all. Their problem solving, their clarity under pressure, their ability to see patterns others miss, it doesn't register as genius. It simply feels like common sense. They assume everyone has the same mental wiring, the same emotional discipline, the same self-command. They don't realize that what feels effortless to them is, for most, impossible. It's a quiet psychological blindness, a phenomenon rooted in the Dunning-Kruger paradox in reverse. The less they struggle, the less they believe their gifts are rare. While the average person fights for validation, follows trends, or depends on group consensus, the Sigma moves in silence, guided by an inner compass that never seems to fail him. He doesn't see that this very independence, this ability to walk untouched by noise, is what makes him exceptional. What feels like breathing to him is a marathon for others. But because it's effortless, he mistakes it for universal. And in that assumption, he hides his own greatness from himself. People around him recalibrate in his presence, they speak softer, think deeper, stand taller, often without realizing it. His calm composure acts like gravity, quietly reshaping the space he occupies. Yet he never notices. He's too busy living inside his own head, assuming everyone else sees life with the same clarity. This is the paradox of the Sigma's psyche. His humility isn't practiced, it's programmed. He doesn't try to appear grounded, he genuinely believes he's nothing special. But that's exactly what makes him magnetic. The world sees a man untouched by ego, unmoved by validation, and that absence of self-importance becomes its own kind of power. The Sigma doesn't glorify himself because, to him, there's nothing to glorify. It's simply life as he knows it. And that's the irony. The very reason Sigma males can't see their greatness, is the same reason others can't stop seeing it. Number 3, they don't trust external mirrors. Sigma males often can't see their own greatness because they don't trust the mirrors the world holds up to them. To them, praise is suspicious, admiration feels exaggerated, and compliments often sound like manipulation in disguise. It's not arrogance, it's discernment. They've seen too many hollow words dressed as truth, too many people bending opinions for their own agendas. So even when someone looks them in the eye and says, "You're remarkable," the Sigma's instinct is to question it. Why are they saying this? What do they want? That skepticism becomes armor, and eventually, a prison. He stops believing external reflections altogether, choosing instead to rely solely on his own internal judgment. But that inner judgment? It's brutal. Ruthless. He measures himself not against others, but against his own impossibly high standards, standards that keep shifting every time he improves. So when the world applauds him, it feels hollow. When people describe him as inspiring, he filters it out as noise. Because in his reality, no one's reflection can be trusted, not when bias and projection are part of human nature. This creates a kind of psychological isolation, a phenomenon rooted in what some psychologists call hyperindividuation. He's so committed to independent thought that he no longer allows others to help him see who he truly is. Without mirrors, he loses the ability to recognize his own impact. Ironically, the people around him often have a clearer view of his influence than he does himself. A single gesture, a calm word, a quiet decision, these ripple through environments, altering moods, inspiring respect. But the Sigma can't see those ripples, he's standing too close to the source. He assumes the reflection others show him is warped, when sometimes, it's the only accurate picture of his power. This mistrust becomes self-perpetuating. The more he doubts outside voices, the deeper he retreats into silence. And inside that silence, his inner critic becomes the only voice he hears. He ends up trapped in a feedback loop, rejecting praise, magnifying flaws, forever convinced that he hasn't done enough. It's not that the Sigma male lacks greatness, it's that he refuses to see it through anyone else's eyes. Until he learns that not every mirror is distorted, that some reflections are genuine, shaped by those who see him clearly and without agenda, he will continue to stare into empty glass, blind to the brilliance everyone else sees shining back. Because sometimes, the world isn't exaggerating. Sometimes, it's just telling the truth he's too disciplined to believe. Number 4, they hide their fire to protect others. Sigma males often mistake restraint for humility. They learn early that their intensity, their drive, their insight, their presence, can make others uncomfortable. So they start dimming their own fire, not because they doubt its existence, but because they fear its consequences. They've seen how their confidence can trigger insecurity. How their silence can be misread as arrogance. How their precision can make others feel exposed. So they pull back. They downplay. They soften their edges to keep the peace. It's not submission, it's emotional intelligence. But over time, this self-containment becomes a habit, and then, a mask. They stop showing how much they know, how hard they push, how deeply they care. Because every time they've let their full force show, it's been misunderstood. They've been called intimidating, detached, too intense. They've been told to relax, to smile more, to blend in. But you can't shrink a storm without killing the rain. So the Sigma learns to burn quietly, a silent furnace beneath a calm surface. He doesn't boast. He doesn't demand attention. He simply observes, calculates, and acts, while the world underestimates the magnitude of what lives inside him. This self-suppression isn't weakness, it's protection. He's protecting others from discomfort, but also protecting himself from the chaos that follows when he's truly seen. Because being fully visible means being vulnerable, open to jealousy, projection, manipulation. And the Sigma has no patience for those games. So he hides his fire in plain sight, disguised as calmness, wrapped in humility. People think he's detached, emotionless, even indifferent. But in truth, he's containing more power than most people can comprehend. There's a quiet kind of nobility in that, but also, tragedy. Because the world never gets to witness the full brilliance of a man who chooses control over chaos. And he never gets to feel the liberation of being fully, unapologetically seen. He convinces himself that invisibility is strength, that being misunderstood is a small price for peace. But deep down, part of him knows, the fire was never meant to be hidden. It was meant to light the way. Number 5, they're addicted to growth, not glory. The Sigma male doesn't chase attention, he chases evolution. While most people crave recognition, he craves transformation. The applause doesn't move him. Progress does. It's why he rarely pauses to celebrate himself, every achievement is just another checkpoint on an endless climb. When others reach the top and stop to admire the view, he's already studying the next mountain in silence. It's not ambition in the conventional sense, it's an inner compulsion. A quiet obsession with becoming, sharper, wiser, calmer, stronger. He's addicted to progress, and that addiction comes with a paradox. The faster he grows, the less he feels accomplished. Every level reached reveals another layer of imperfection to fix, another weakness to dissect, another lesson to absorb. He doesn't see how far he's come, because his mind is fixed on how far there is to go. To the outside world, this looks like humility, a noble detachment from ego. But beneath it lies a subtle form of self-erasure. He never allows himself the satisfaction of arrival. He never stands still long enough to acknowledge his own evolution. That's the Sigma's silent torment, he's wired for forward motion, not reflection. He finds comfort in pursuit, but discomfort in praise. Compliments feel premature, celebrations feel undeserved, and recognition feels like a distraction from the work still undone. He doesn't realize that this constant striving, this refusal to rest, is both his gift and his wound. Because growth without grace becomes an endless treadmill. No matter how far he runs, he still feels behind. People admire his discipline, his consistency, his almost monastic focus. But they don't see the shadow it casts. A man so committed to self-improvement that he forgets to notice he's already become the man he once dreamed of being. The Sigma's greatness is hidden in plain sight, buried beneath his own refusal to stop and look. He doesn't need glory. He doesn't even need validation. He just needs movement. And in that relentless motion, he misses the quiet truth that growth itself was never the destination, it was always the evidence of his greatness. Number 6, they operate in silence, so their impact echoes unseen. Sigma males rarely announce what they're doing, they simply do it. No noise. No validation loop. No grand reveal. They move like shadows, precise, self-contained, and impossible to track until the results speak for themselves. By the time anyone realizes what the Sigma's been building, it's already complete. By the time they notice his influence, it's already reshaped everything around them. He doesn't need witnesses to fuel his purpose. In fact, too many eyes make him uncomfortable. He thrives in solitude because solitude sharpens focus, and focus is his form of power. But this silence comes at a cost. When you don't show your process, the world assumes you're doing nothing. When you don't explain your moves, people think you're detached, disinterested, or lost. They can't comprehend that stillness and stagnation are not the same thing. The Sigma's silence is never empty. It's strategic. It's where observation turns into insight, and thought turns into quiet execution. He doesn't crave acknowledgement, he craves alignment. Every step he takes must resonate with something deeper than applause, integrity, precision, purpose. And because of that, his impact often goes unseen until it's irreversible. You don't notice the Sigma's influence when it begins. You notice it when you find yourself thinking differently. When conversations feel deeper, when standards rise quietly in his presence. He doesn't push people to evolve, he simply exists at a frequency that demands it. Those who can't rise to that frequency drift away. Those who can, grow without realizing who sparked it. That's the paradox of the Sigma's silence. It amplifies his reach while erasing his fingerprints. He shifts dynamics without taking credit. He inspires change without needing to be thanked. And so, even though he moves mountains, he often feels invisible. Not because he lacks impact, but because his impact is too subtle for most to trace. He's not loud because his results are. He doesn't declare victory because victory, to him, is private. A quiet moment of clarity that no one else needs to see. The world may not notice the Sigma's work until it's already built into their reality. But that's how he prefers it. He doesn't need to be seen changing the world. He just needs to know he did. Number 7, they feel deeply but express little. The Sigma male's calm isn't the absence of emotion, it's the mastery of it. Beneath his quiet surface lies an ocean most will never glimpse. He feels everything, pain, beauty, betrayal, connection. But you'd never know it by looking at him. He doesn't broadcast emotion, he translates it into understanding. When others react, he reflects. When they explode, he absorbs. When they seek comfort in expression, he finds strength in containment. It's not that he's cold, it's that he's careful. He knows emotions are energy, and once released recklessly, they lose their power. So he holds them, studies them, channels them. But this emotional control has a shadow side. Because he processes everything alone, few ever realize how deeply he feels. He could be bleeding inside, and the world would still see composure. He could be quietly moved by love, loyalty, or loss, and no one would know. To most, he looks indifferent. But internally, he's carrying entire worlds. This restraint isn't detachment, it's self-protection. He's learned that showing emotion often invites misunderstanding. That vulnerability, when placed in the wrong hands, turns into ammunition. So he keeps his feelings guarded, expressed only through subtle actions. A glance, a word, a gesture, small, but deliberate. It's his way of saying everything without saying anything. He's not unfeeling. He's selective. He gives his emotions to those who can handle them, few ever qualify. That's why people often misjudge him. They think he's stoic because he doesn't react. But in truth, he's reacting in ways that transcend expression. Internally, profoundly, silently. And maybe that's the most misunderstood part of the Sigma's psyche. His quiet doesn't mean he doesn't care. It means he cares too much to let emotion cheapen into display. He loves deeply, but privately. He hurts quietly, but with intensity. He forgives rarely, but completely. He's not built to perform emotion. He's built to embody it. And in that quiet depth, where feeling and restraint coexist, the Sigma's heart becomes both his armor and his compass, guiding him through a world too loud to ever notice how deeply he listens. Number 8, they measure themselves by internal standards. The Sigma male doesn't live by the world's scoreboard. He's not chasing approval, wealth, or status symbols, those are just noise to him. His only competition is the man he was yesterday. Where most people measure success by what they have, the Sigma measures it by who he's becoming. External validation feels hollow to him, because he knows how easily it can be manipulated. Trends change. Opinions shift. Applause fades. But the inner compass never lies. He operates from a private system of metrics no one else can see. He asks himself questions that most people avoid. Did I act with integrity? Did I grow from that pain? Did I stay loyal to my truth, even when it cost me something? If the answer is yes, he sleeps well, even if the world misunderstands him. If the answer is no, no amount of external success can make him feel whole. This internal standard makes him almost impossible to corrupt. You can't bribe a man who defines wealth as self-respect. You can't shame a man who no longer seeks approval. And you can't manipulate a man whose validation comes from within. But this same independence also isolates him. Because while others bond through shared goals and collective praise, the Sigma often walks alone in his quiet pursuit of inner alignment. He doesn't crave trophies, he craves truth. And truth, he's learned, rarely comes with applause. It's not that he doesn't appreciate recognition, he just doesn't depend on it. He's seen too many people bend themselves for acceptance, trading authenticity for belonging. To him, that's the ultimate form of weakness. He'd rather stand alone with his principles than be surrounded by approval that feels fake. That's what makes the Sigma's path so misunderstood. His victories are invisible to most. They happen in silence, in the space between temptation and self-control, between impulse and principle. He doesn't post about them, brag about them, or seek witnesses. He simply becomes them. And so, while others chase milestones, the Sigma chases mastery. Not mastery over the world, mastery over himself. Because in his mind, true greatness isn't about being celebrated. It's about being centered. It's not about being admired. It's about being aligned. And that's the quiet secret of the Sigma's strength. The world can't measure him, because he doesn't live by its scale. Number 9. They underestimate their own influence. Sigma males rarely realize how much space they occupy, not physically, but energetically. They move through life quietly, thinking they're blending in, unaware that their presence is altering the entire atmosphere around them. They underestimate how their composure steadies the anxious. How their silence invites reflection. How their detachment makes others crave their attention even more. To them, they're just being themselves. To everyone else, they're a gravitational force. The Sigma doesn't perform leadership, yet people naturally follow his rhythm. He doesn't ask for trust, yet others find themselves confiding in him without knowing why. He doesn't demand respect, it simply forms around him like air pressure, invisible but undeniable. But here's the paradox. Because he never seeks attention, he rarely notices how much of it he commands. He thinks he's just existing quietly, when in truth, he's leading silently. He doesn't realize that people mirror his calm, that his restraint becomes the emotional thermostat of any room he enters. He doesn't see how his choices influence the standards of those around him. How his discipline inspires others to demand more from themselves. It's not charisma in the traditional sense. It's presence, that rare, grounded stillness that doesn't shout, doesn't chase, doesn't need. It simply is. And that isness creates a ripple effect. People leave his presence slightly changed. A little more composed, a little more self-aware, a little less performative. They might not even realize why. But the Sigma has already shifted them without a word. Still, he rarely acknowledges it. In his mind, he's just living authentically, doing what feels natural. He doesn't connect the dots between his being and the transformations around him. This blind spot keeps him humble, but also hidden. He'll never fully grasp how many people he's inspired simply by existing in alignment with himself. He'll never know that his quiet integrity was the reason someone didn't give up. That his calm energy helped someone face their storm. Because he's not looking for impact, he's looking for peace. But that's the irony. His peace is his impact. And while he may never fully see the scope of his influence, those who cross paths with him will never forget it. Because the Sigma doesn't leave footprints. He leaves imprints. Number 10, they confuse discipline with normalcy. To the Sigma male, discipline isn't extraordinary, it's simply how life works. He doesn't see waking up early, staying focused, or controlling impulses as impressive. He sees them as baseline behavior, the minimum standard for functioning with purpose. And that's precisely why he doesn't recognize his own greatness. He assumes everyone else has the same level of consistency, the same control over emotions, the same resilience under pressure. He doesn't realize that what feels effortless to him is what most people spend years trying to master. His mental strength isn't something he flaunts, it's something he quietly is. He doesn't need motivation quotes, external accountability, or praise. He does what must be done, simply because that's what must be done. And when others call it discipline, he just shrugs. Because in his mind, it's not a skill, it's common sense. But here's the truth, it's not common. His capacity to self-regulate, to delay gratification, to stay detached from emotional chaos, these are rare psychological muscles, built from years of solitude, observation, and trial by silence. He's been through too many storms to rely on emotion. He trusts structure more than impulse. And while that structure shields him, it also blinds him. He mistakes his inner stability for normalcy. So when he looks around and sees others struggling with things that come naturally to him, focus, boundaries, emotional balance, he doesn't feel superior. He feels confused. He assumes he's missing something. That maybe he's too rigid, too cold, too detached. But in reality, he's simply operating at a frequency that most never reach. This is the quiet paradox of the Sigma's mind. He's so used to carrying weight with ease that he no longer notices how heavy it is. To him, discipline isn't heroic. It's breathing. It's existing. It's what keeps his world ordered and his emotions silent. And while the world admires his control, he dismisses it as nothing special. Not realizing that his very definition of ordinary would exhaust most people by noon. The Sigma doesn't see himself as remarkable because his standards are built on a different axis. One defined not by comfort, but by capacity. And that's the quiet truth. His greatness hides behind the illusion of normalcy. Because to him, excellence isn't an achievement. It's simply what's expected. Number 11, they are addicted to self-refinement. Sigma males rarely rest. Not because the world demands it, but because they demand it of themselves. Every skill, every habit, every thought is constantly under review. There's a quiet obsession in their mind, a drive to refine, optimize, and evolve. Perfection isn't just a goal, it's a constant companion, whispering in the shadows, you can be better. They are addicted to self-refinement, to building the best version of themselves. And that addiction comes at a cost. The inability to pause and truly see what they've already achieved. When others celebrate milestones, the Sigma is already analyzing the next challenge. When praise arrives, he filters it through a lens of doubt. Could I have done more? Was that enough? It's not arrogance, it's relentless accountability. He doesn't cheat himself with false pride. He doesn't allow external validation to inflate his ego. He is perpetually under construction, and nothing less than mastery satisfies him. And yet, this very habit conceals his brilliance. While the world sees extraordinary accomplishments, he sees only the unfinished blueprint. While people marvel at his composure, creativity, and insight, he judges himself against invisible standards. The Sigma doesn't just climb, he dissects the mountain after reaching the summit. Already sketching the next peak to conquer. This is both his gift and his blind spot. It drives him to levels of excellence others can only dream of. But it also blinds him to the greatness he already embodies. He's a masterpiece in progress, and he's so engrossed in the process. He rarely steps back to admire the art he has already created. The irony is stark. His obsession with bettering himself hides the very evidence of his exceptional nature. He is brilliant, disciplined, and influential. But his own mind refuses to let him feel it. Until the Sigma allows himself even a fleeting moment of reflection, he will remain a man building empires in silence, unaware that he already is the extraordinary. Number 12, they don't recognize the aura they carry. Sigma males rarely notice the energy they radiate. To them, their presence is quiet, natural, almost incidental. They walk into a room thinking they're blending in, unaware that every gesture, every pause, every glance commands attention. Their confidence isn't loud, it's magnetic. Their calm isn't passive, it's contagious. Their insight isn't performed, it shifts minds without effort. They underestimate the power of their subtlety. While they assume their impact is ordinary, the world feels it as extraordinary. People lean in, unconsciously inspired, guided, or unsettled, not because he demands it, but because he exists with integrity, clarity, and quiet authority. To the Sigma male, it's just being himself. But the paradox is undeniable, the very ease with which he inhabits his power is what makes him remarkable. He doesn't see the aura, the invisible pull, the silent influence he carries. And that blindness is the signature of his existence. Conclusion: the paradox of Sigma greatness. Sigma males live in a world of quiet contradiction. To others, they are extraordinary. To themselves, they are ordinary. They outgrow achievements before the world can applaud them. They carry invisible battles that leave no scars for others to see. They radiate influence they don't notice and wield discipline they dismiss as normal. Their brilliance is hidden in plain sight, because they measure themselves against internal standards that most could never comprehend. They strive, refine, and evolve, endlessly, and yet rarely allow themselves to pause and recognize the empire they have already built. And maybe that's the true genius of the Sigma male. He doesn't need validation, applause, or mirrors to define his greatness. It exists in the way he moves, thinks, and quietly reshapes the world around him. His life is a silent revolution, a mastery in motion, a force of nature that touches everyone without demanding to be seen. The Sigma may never look in the mirror and fully recognize his own power. But the world already does. And that is the ultimate paradox, the quiet, undeniable, and eternal truth of the Sigma male. If this video gave you something to hold into, I'd be happy to have you join our community by subscribing. Don't forget to like, share your thoughts in the comments. And if there's anyone you think needs to hear it, share it with them. Thank you for watching.